Hi, everybody. Welcome back on Lit Up with Annie. This is our first session in the series of History of English Literature, and we are going to talk about the beginnings. We're going to talk about the invasions because all the literature that we see in the Old English, Middle English period, it's all influenced by all the invasions that took place, right? So I'll take you to the map. Let's begin. Yeah. I need you to focus on these particular areas. This one. So, England, here, below England, France, adjacent Denmark, then Germany. Here, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland. And here we have Rome. At least this map should be in your mind. It's very, very important. If you understand graphically, it becomes easier to remember. So the first invasion that took place, or that we're going to talk about, is Roman. We won't go into very much detail. From here, Rome to England, people had come, they had invaded. It was very, very early, 55 BC. What we are going to start with is German invasion. From Germany, northern Germany, Denmark, people started moving out and they started moving towards England. Okay. Now, this is all like a story, and I want you to start understanding it and enjoying this story. We are talking about 5th century, 410, 5th century, that it is also called migration period. Migration period, also known as barbarian invasions. There are two terms. One is migration, the other is invasions. So some of the historians have called it a migration, the others have talked about it in terms of invasion. There were a lot of people, basically scattered groups of people. They started moving out of Germany, northern Germany, Denmark, and they started moving towards England. All right, and it led to a fall of Roman Empire. Already there were people from Rome who had come there. So when this people from Germany started moving towards England, it was huge number of people, and it was a fall of Roman Empire, and Germanic people rose to power. Basically, the control started moving towards the Germanic people. And this is where we begin by talking about Anglo Saxon settlements. It was during the 5th century that this happened. Roman control of Britain came to an end, and these tribes, these Germanic tribes, Anglo Saxons, Jutes, they took control. You must have heard about Bede. You must have heard about ecclesiastical history, right? So he has mentioned there that these three were the most powerful tribes of Germany: Jutes, Angles, and Saxons. So I hope this is clear, this map. The first among the three tribes, the first ones to come was the Jutes. Now, interesting story here also. If we look at the history, there is no consensus of the origin of the people, the tribe, Jutes. But there is some evidence which says that these people came from a place called Jutland Peninsula. Now, Jutland Peninsula consisted of some places which were under Germany and other places which were under Denmark. So here were the people, Jutes tribe, which came from Jutland Peninsula. So it's a Germanic tribe, and as I told you, one of the three most powerful tribes with Angles and Saxons. So these people, Angles, Saxons, Jutes, they migrated from continental Europe towards Great Britain. England. Now, where does the name England come from? The term England comes from Angles, basically. Angles, the tribe, when they went there, they gave this name to this emerging kingdoms of, and it was called England. Basically, Angle land se bana England. Okay. Also, let's see here. Wait. Which tribe occupied which one? So when the Jutes came, they came to the portion here, Kent. Saxons, these areas, the upper regions, and sorry, what did I say? Angles, the upper regions, Saxons, Wessex, Essex, and Sussex. All right. Where does the term Great Britain come from? You can see here on top we have Britannia, the name. Again, there were some rulers from France. They wanted to distinguish between Brittany and Britannia. Now, Brittany is a place in France. So, probably there was some confusion sometimes in Brittany and Britannia. So, to distinguish, they started calling Britannia as Grand Britain, Bretagane. So, Grand Britain. So, it became Great Britain from there. So, this was in the 6th century that Great Britain the name was given to Britannia. So these are some facts. Okay, Roman invasion, then Angles, Saxons, and Jutes coming to England, forming their colonies. Achha, Saxons came not just once. First they came and they formed the colony of Sussex. The second time they came, they formed the colony of Wessex. So this is how happened, Wessex and then Essex also. So this is how they moved here, they formed their colonies, they spent time here, and they made their control. Everything, they started including people, the native people also, and they basically integrated with the natives of England. After that, in the 6th century itself, Christianity was also introduced. It was introduced by Saint Columba. And the first Catholic mission in England at Canterbury was established, not by Saint Columba, but by Saint Augustine. So there are two names here. Christianity introduced by Saint Columba, and the first Catholic mission established by Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine is a very famous name you must have heard if you've read a history book. So these are some of the facts from 5th century, 6th century. After that, they established their colonies, they became integrated with the people, and then we moved to the 8th century. Now, in the 8th century, what happened? Probably everything seemed scattered till the 6th, 7th century, and there were more invasions. You can see that so many, Denmark especially, there were more invasions. You must have heard about Vikings invasions. It happened. We'll talk about it. So what I'm trying to say is, it was not safe, right? There were still chances that anyone can come. Scandinavian nations especially. Which are the Scandinavian regions? Denmark, Norway, Iceland. So these regions that I showed you in the beginning, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, Scandinavian regions. अभी भी Scandinavian regions से तो खतरा था ही. So what they did is, in the 8th century, they formed a heptarchy. Heptarchy means 7 kingdoms. They came together and they formed a kind of a consensus so that there may be harmony and they may remain cooperation among different kingdoms. So which were the 7 kingdoms that formed the heptarchy? Northumbria, Mercia, Wessex, Sussex, Essex, Kent, East Anglia. basically all of these occupied regions by the foreigners. They formed a heptarchy. A leader was chosen, and the leader was chosen from Wessex. You can write down the name of the leader who was chosen. It was Egbert. Egbert of Wessex was chosen the leader of the heptarchy. So now, of course, if the leader was from Wessex, slowly and gradually, Wessex started becoming a controlling force. So it started subjecting the nearby areas, Essex, Kent, Sussex, and slowly and gradually the entire southern region was under Wessex now. Wessex was the most powerful region. So we can say that for the first time, a sense of national identity was formed because of Heptarchy, I will say. Because when you start feeling one with other nations, if they formed a Heptarchy, they were one with each other. So for the first time in England, a feeling of unity came, a feeling of oneness came. So for the first time ever, a kind of a national identity was formed. The colonizers, these Anglo Saxons, Jutes that had come now 2 centuries ago, they became integrated with the native English people fully. And that kind of a national identity was formed. And then came the Vikings invasion. So who came? People from Denmark. Vikings invasion. A Danish army took control of course, where will they come? If they're coming from here, the easiest will be to capture the eastern region. So they came from here to East Anglia. They took control of East Anglia first and then started moving. Most of Mercia and Northumbria. So they moved up north. So middle area, upper region, east area was under the control of Danish people now. You must have heard the name of Alfred the Great. Alfred the Great came into picture in 871 BC, 9th century. He became the king of Wessex. And then Alfred was the one who led a revolt against the Danish people, against the Scandinavian invaders. Because Anglo Saxons and Jutes had already become one with the native people. They were looked upon as invaders now, the Danish people. So Alfred the Great, he led an Anglo Saxon revolt against the Scandinavian invaders, which led to Battle of Edington in 878 BC. Battle of Edington. Now, what was decided from this battle was that the territory will be fixed. Boundary of the Danish held territory, whatever places the people of Denmark have captured, their places will be fixed. They can't move any further from there. So territory was fixed from this battle, and it was fixed to northeast. From London to Chester, a line was drawn. This was 878. And a lot of disputes continued, political disputes. Finally, in 885, political disputes which were between these people, Denmark and the natives, the Anglo-Saxon natives, they were finally resolved. Moving on to the 10th century, English people finally started taking a bit control. They felt that, from centuries and centuries, Roman people, then these Germanic tribes, we have been controlled by these invaders. So finally, English people started taking control of some of the areas which were held by these Danish colonizers. This was in the 10th century. But it was not for a very long time, because these invasions were still going on. In the 10th century only, 973, Edgar of Wessex, again Wessex. Wessex was a very powerful area. Edgar of Wessex proclaimed first king of England during the day, including the Danelaw. पूरे इंग्लैंड का. So he is also called sometimes the first monarch, first king of England, Edgar. I need you to note these names now, from Edgar especially. Edgar was succeeded by, I've written the name here, Ethelred. Ethelred has a nickname, the Unready. He is called the Unready for a reason. He was not really ready to be the king. Because he was not ready, he actually he fled to France. But before that, there was another invasion. Again, a Danish army marched, and this time it was under Sven here, led the Danish army in 978. Sometimes in middle I've said, like for example, 978 BC. Please, I'm sorry for that. It's by mistake that I said that. Of course, not BC, AD. So 978 AD, Ethelred became the king, and 990, Sven led the Danish army once again. An invasion took place. And this time they invaded the southern regions. Never had they done before. And again, very, very long dispute of territory took place. Ethelred was supposed to do something for the nation, but he fled. He went to France. He took himself a French wife. He had a son also. But very soon he died, Ethelred. So he had a wife, French wife. Her name was Emma. And she's called Emma of Normandy. Now we talk about France a little bit. So as I told you, France below England. Normandy is the closest region. Not the closest, but yes, still. So Emma was from Normandy. Now they had a son. He grew up in France only, in the northern region of France, because he was very young at the time when Ethelred passed away. Therefore, there was no heir. He was very, very small. So 1016, what happened? Now, of course, Emma also probably thought that what now? My husband, who was the king, is gone. She couldn't just remain there. So she was married to Canute. I told you who Canute was. Canute was the son of Sven. Sven had already come from Denmark, capturing the southern regions of England. So Canute was his son, and Canute was chosen, or not chosen really, but Canute became the king of England, and he married the widow of Ethelred. He got married to Emma. Of Normandy. Now, look at the scenario. Canute is the son of Sven, so he's Danish. The wife that he took for himself is Emma, and she is French. And they are ruling England right now. Now remember that Ethelred and Emma had a son. His name was Edward, the first Edward in many to come. Now, Edward Later on, after Canute died, of course, so he was the last of the Danish king, he died, and there was a peaceful restoration of monarchy with Edward becoming the king. Edward's nickname is the Confessor. People gave these nicknames: Ethelred the Unready, Edward the Confessor. So Edward became the king. Edward also got married. Edward married, now English only. Say, Edward is half French, half English, but Edward married daughter of an English baron, Godwin. But unfortunately, he did not produce an heir. Again, the same dispute. Who is going to become the king? Now think, out of these people, whose descendants will be the king? It was decided that since Emma was French, Edward had some cousins in France. And one of his cousins was very powerful name, William. William was one of his cousins, William of Normandy. I think you all know who William was. So it was decided that after Edward dies, William of Normandy will be chosen as the king. This dispute went on for a very long time, 1050s and 1060s. Finally, when the time came, 1066, Edward passed away. And as decided, William was supposed to be the king. But Harold was the queen's brother. He proclaimed himself as the king. किसी ना किसी ने तो आना ही है बीच में. So Harold proclaimed king, and because of that, what happened? Norman Conquest. When? 1066. Because William was probably hurt. So William started marching from, he was from here, Normandy. William started marching from Normandy towards England, and he marched to a place called Hastings. You can see the line also. And you can see the swords. Swords means the battle took place here. So these blue lines indicate Harold's force. They traveled from here, here, here. And the red line represent William's force. They reached here, and there took place the Battle of Hastings, in which Harold died and William became the King of England. And remember that this was the last time that a foreign power successfully invaded British shores. In 1086, a book was published, the Domesday Book. It is actually a record of land holdings. You know, kaun sa land kiske paas hai, throughout England, and it was commissioned by William the Conqueror. William was given the nickname of the Conqueror. So this is the story of the invasions that took place. A quick revision we will have here. We talked about Roman invasion, 55 BC, very, very early. 5th century, we had the migrating Germans who began to invade. We had Anglo Saxon settlement. 6th century, Christianity was introduced. We saw two names, Saint Columba, Saint Augustine. Then 8th century, we saw the formation of Heptarchy, Northumbria, East Anglia, Mercia, Wessex, Sussex, Essex, and Kent. And 9th century, we saw how Wessex started controlling the southern England because the leader of Heptarchy was from Wessex. After that, we saw Vikings invasion, the Danish army, not just once but 2 times. First, the Danish army marched, took control of the eastern regions and the northern regions. Then we had Alfred the Great, who led a revolt against Scandinavian invaders. Battle of Edington took place. Again, I'm sorry, here I have to change it. I don't know why. Okay, so Battle of Edington took place, and it was decided that the territory will be fixed of the Danish people. After that, 973 again, we have Edgar of Wessex proclaimed the king of entire England. He was succeeded by Ethelred the Unready. Ethelred moved to France, had a French wife, had a son. Then 990, Danish invasion took place. It was under Sweyn. And this time it was southern England that they captured. 1016, Canute, who was the son of Sweyn, became the king of England, and he married the widow of Ethelred. After that, 1042, monarchy was restored with Edward the Confessor, who was the son of Ethelred and Emma. 1066, Edward also died, and Harold became the king of England, and which led to Norman Conquest. William the Conqueror marching from Normandy towards Hastings, and Battle of Hastings took place. Harold died, and William became the king. So this is all about the history till Norman Conquest. I hope everything is clear till here, and we will have the next session very soon. I request you to please like if you really liked the video, if you enjoyed it and you want me to have more and more videos, please subscribe to this channel. It is very, very important for me. So like, share the video, and please subscribe. Thank you.